Hi. Welcome to the Foundation for Physical Therapy webinar. This one is titled Stepping Stones Toward a Successful Research Career. Thanks for joining us. I'm Jimmy McKay. I am honored to serve on the Foundation for Physical Therapy Research Board of Trustees, and I'll be your host this afternoon. Here's a quick overview of what this event and what this video will cover. Our guests today will discuss the Promotion of Doctoral Studies, or PODS, Promotion of Doctoral Studies, PODS, scholarship application process, and give you some key strategies on how to submit an outstanding application in pursuit of research funding and support opportunities. So let's bring on our three speakers today. First up, we have Chris Lane, Emma Bysham-Ryan, and Julia Mazzarella. Let's bring our guests in. And there we go. Guests. Oh, sorry. Brought someone else in. There we go. Guests, welcome to the program today. Thanks so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so we're going to go around the horn. Now, first of all, just to set the stage, all of you on the screen, except for me, has actually received a PODS scholarship. We have that right, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. So you're going to give us some inside scoop. The audience really today is someone who is in your shoes, or maybe is in your shoes right now. Just so you know, you can join our website at the end of the program for more information. Let's start things off. Chris, we'll start with you. What were some of the things that you did and that you would advise other applicants to do in order to stand out from the applicant pool? We'll start with Chris and we'll go around the horn. Chris, what's on your mind? What's something you would suggest doing to stand out?
Okay, yes, so I think to stand out on the PODS application, I would really focus on really sharing our own journey, my own journey of what got me to be interested in research, what got me interested in the actual research project that I'm proposing. So really just kind of showing your unique self. So, I mean, a lot of us have our own unique backgrounds, maybe motivations of why we actually wanted to do research in the first place. And like for me, myself, I was really interested in my research project because of what happened during the COVID times with the disparities in the pandemic, then also even with talks about racism, particularly systemic racism in America. And that got me really interested in trying to learn more about disparities and health outcomes related to physical therapy. So however you can really just share your interests and backgrounds, there's usually a few sections too that really gives you pretty ample opportunity to do so. So like there's a section on training, section on goals. There's usually I think a section on like motivation of why you got the degree and why you wanted to do research in the first place. So right. I think those are just great areas to just really share about yourself.
So you're really advocating for making sure the people, because there are humans on the other end of these applications, we should make sure we highlight that. The people on the other end of these applications they're trying to understand you, what your motivations are, where you'd like this research to go. You're probably putting it in context, as you mentioned. So I think some people might be hesitant of doing that, right? They might try to take a very objective approach, but you're saying make sure you bring your subjective self into that.
Yes, definitely. Yes. So it's not just a research plan. You bring more than that to the table.
Yeah. Bring some depth into that. All right. Same question. Emma, what would you suggest that someone pays attention to? You can build off of what Chris says. Say go to different direction. We want to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking a little bit more about your training plan when you're putting that together. If you can really match what you're saying your research objectives are to tangible actions that you're taking, I think that can really stand out as far as showing not only that what you want to do is feasible, but that you're really enmeshed in that world and you can make it happen. So for example, don't just say, I want to conduct clinically relevant research. Say, I want to conduct clinically relevant research and tie it to how you're immersed in the population of interest or what you're studying, how you're networking with people in that area of the field, and just figuring out how you can really make it come to life versus just saying you want to do it.
Yeah. I like how you're highlighting something that's similar to what Chris said in a different way. Mm-hmm. You're saying not only I don't just talk the talk, but I walk the walk. This is the space. I understand this space well. I would like to understand some more about it. But you're again interjecting something that might not be on a standard application, or people might think shouldn't be on a standard application. You're advocating for going a little bit deeper.
Exactly.
Julia, when you hear the first two guests today speak, what would you add to that question?
Yeah, so kind of adding on to what Chris mentioned about how there's a lot of different sections of the application. So you have your research proposal, but then there's also a section on training and mentorship and the institution that you're at and the resources available to you. I think a really important thing to do is to make sure that everything is tying back to your goals. So as you're outlining your career goals in this application, really just tying everything back to that. So how does your research proposal tie into your goals? How do your mentors tie into your goals? How does your training plan tie into your goals? And what does your institution have to offer to help support you in achieving those goals? One thing that I think is really nice, and I've learned this from others who have provided examples for me, but if you number your goals, you can very easily kind of relate back to them throughout your text, saying this addresses goal number 4. And I think that's an easy way for reviewers to see how you're tying everything together too.
Yeah, this makes the communications person in me smile, which is, you know a lot about what your goals are. You understand your project very well, and sometimes when you're writing, especially if the application's rather long, sometimes you can be so immersed, your eyeballs deep in that. But you're making sure that those goals are your North Stars, is what it sounds like you're advocating for, is, and making sure you can show whatever you're talking about that particular moment points back to this particular goal, this particular North Star.
Yeah.
I like to sum things up like that. You'll see. Chris, let's talk about your research for a second. You're working on examining disparities in health services outcomes for adults with anterior cruciate ligament injury. You were awarded the PODS 2 Scholarship in 2022, named in honor of the Marquette Challenge that we've all been a part of, that student-led fundraising effort to support the missions of the Foundation for Physical Therapy Research. Talk about where that is. Well, first of all, I want to know how did it feel to apply and then receive something like that? And where are you in the research right now?
Okay, yeah, sure, definitely. Yes, I'm really appreciative of receiving the award. Right now, I'm actually working on the dissertation part of my studies. So I'm a 4th-year PhD student. I'm working on a dissertation proposal right now and finalizing that very soon. But yeah, I did talk a little bit about, I guess, what had me interested in the area. But to talk about it in more depth, I'm looking at racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic disparities and treatment access for people with ACL injury or anterior cruciate ligament injury. So looking at factors that also relate to those disparities in care, and then just looking in more depth, just using both quantitative and qualitative, just research and understanding those disparities.
So part of any process really has to be the fun, constructive criticism. We say we want it, but admit it. I'll admit it. When you're getting it, it can be a little uncomfortable, but long term, it is a great component. Chris, we'll start with you. How do you incorporate constructive criticism from unfunded grants into your next application? How do you take things that you've learned from what might seem like a failure, and how do you put them into play for something in the future? Chris, we'll start with you.
Okay, yeah, definitely the fun part of it. Yeah, receiving criticism, which is definitely part of the territory of being a researcher. And so that's really common, to have criticism, to have failure, and I've been through myself, even in my limited time of being a PhD student. So I had an unfunded grant myself, actually, for the pods, because I applied to the pods beforehand, and I received a lot of good feedback on that, and really try to use that feedback to help me for my next submission, which was successful. So certainly, I would say that, yeah, don't give up if you do have a failure. I mean, that's common in grants, common in manuscripts. So really just trying to find where in the feedback that can really be helpful, and not trying to take any feedback personally. And I really feel like most of the feedback is from a very good place as well. So just sometimes taking a little bit of time to just even reflect, maybe just take a few days to just really just think about the whole process, and not really have to start right away on trying to address everything at once.
Yeah. Emma, we come to you after putting so much time and effort, and so much, as you all let us know, so much of yourself into an application, maybe getting a denial, using that failure and going forward. How would you suggest someone take some of that constructive criticism and use it in a good way going forward?
Yeah, always harder to do than it is to say out loud.
Yeah, right?
really trying to not be reactive to something right away, and sit on it and let it soak in and let it process a little bit more. I know myself, I'm often really that first initial reaction is, but of course I could do it this way, or of course this would work. But a lot of times the constructive criticism that's coming back is because something maybe isn't as feasible or wouldn't be as productive in one way or shape or form. So I think a huge piece is just not responding right away, not, enacting a massive change right away, sitting on it, letting it soak in, and then collaborating with your mentors and other people, your peers, other people who can provide that support and discussion to just talk things through. Because sometimes it's not necessarily that something needs to change massively. It might just need to change how you're presenting it. Maybe you didn't explain something quite as thoroughly or comprehensively as you could have. That would have really stuck with that reviewer or made a little more sense from their perspective. So, figuring out that bucket, is it something that you could incorporate and is a really great change that you can make, or is it just something you need to present a little differently?
Emma says, don't react.
Yeah,
take a breath. What can you find here? Julia, as you hear this, I saw you smiling and nodding. What are your thoughts about this question about constructive criticism?
Yeah, so I feel like Emma really touched on most of the main points that I wanted to make. I think letting it soak in, talking to your mentor and other collaborators about, what the reviewer responses were is really helpful. And I think that these reviewers are researchers too, and they want to support research that is impactful. And so whatever criticism that they're giving you, it's not meant to cut you down. They want to help you build a better proposal and improve your project. And I think also keeping in mind that whoever reviewed your project in some instances might not fully understand the research that you're doing. And I think that's a moment to really consider what they're saying and say, is this a misunderstanding, or is this actually something that I should really consider incorporating into my project or changing in my project? Or is it just that I need to explain better what I'm doing, which is kind of what Emma touched on as well.
Yeah, you're highlighting, is this a misunderstanding, or is there something I should change going forward? Is this a communication issue, or is this a process issue? Which is, if a communication issue, we need to fix that. Emma, let's talk about your research for just a second. You, while at the University of Delaware, looked at body representation, pain evaluation, and functional outcomes for adults with lower limb loss. You were awarded the PODS 2 scholarship in 2020 and PODS 1 scholarship in 2019. So congratulations on that. Now completing an advanced geriatric fellowship as part of the Restore team at the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus and VA Eastern Colorado Geriatric Research, Education, and Clinical Center. That's a lot. You've got a lot going on. So congratulations on all of that, and happy to support you as we support the foundation. Next question, which I'm sure all of you on the screen and everybody watching has had to do, and this has to do with letters of recommendation. What's your suggestion? Emma, we'll start with you. What's your suggestion for getting excellent letters of recommendation from well-published mentors? This might be something where you may feel a little awkward at the beginning. How do I go about doing this the right way? And it might cause people to prevent themselves from actually reaching out. What would your suggestion be specifically about letters of recommendation?
Yeah, so letters of recommendation are needed for everything, right? For grants, even if you're the most established person in the field. So don't feel like you're burdening someone, or don't be embarrassed to reach out to your mentors or people that you really feel can support your research. And with that, start early, because a lot of people have a lot of things on their plates, and the more you can get to them before those things start piling up, the better and more thorough that letter is going to be. The last thing I recommend too is just work with those people that you're asking for letters of recommendation to make sure that there's continuity in between what you're highlighting in your application and then what they're commenting on. So even if you work really closely with someone, they don't always necessarily know about that really immersive thing you're doing to help push your research forward, or the other pieces that, again, make your proposal really feasible and great and innovative. So sometimes giving them some sort of outline, or depending on their style, even writing a draft of, this is what I would write about myself, and you can tweak it however you want. That can be really helpful for making sure that they're saying exactly what you kind of are trying to highlight and promote.
So the people on the other end receiving this have done and have to do the same exact process. So don't feel like you're stepping on toes or asking something that you shouldn't be. Ask early and be very clear. Julie, what would you add to that in terms of letters of recommendation?
Yeah, I think it also can be helpful to have your mentor connect you with people that might be really good mentors for you and could also be good to write letters of recommendation. And like Emma said, I think providing information for the mentors for writing the letter is really important. No matter how well they know you, they don't know everything. So sending them a CV or like a bullet list of these are the things that I think you should touch on, sending them a draft of your application so that they know, what you put in there, what is this project that you're proposing, all of that can be helpful too.
Clear, early, often. Chris, what would you add to letters of recommendation?
Yeah, I mean, those are just fantastic points from Judy and Emma. Really, I think the main add would just be make sure very organic, just your interactions with the professors and really just kind of develop the relationships over time. Yeah, I think it's really helpful to send a CV or application as well, and hopefully the person would know you well enough that it won't just be a regurgitation of a CV, but that really would be a great support to it to help them just think about the whole process and just you as a whole person.
Yeah, I think some of the things that you're highlighting there seem like the basics, right? Like someone who might be very close to you and might know you well might not know what you've been up to in the last. I mean, how fast can you lose track of people, right? In the last 3, 6, 9 months, that could get lost, and that's a great way to update that person. You're really walking them clearly and concisely through what's been happening and where you're going. It's a pretty good exercise, right? That's an exercise in communication. It's an exercise in clarity. Julia, we'll talk about your research for a second. The first combined PODS 2 and NIFTY award was given in 2021 to Julia, so congrats, while you were at the Ohio State University. Always make sure that the is in there. For your project titled Hippotherapy for Children with Cerebral Palsy, Upper Extremity Activity, Participation, and Engagement. Congratulations on earning that. The next question we want to throw out, and Julia, we'll start with you. Any tips on getting relevant clinical research experience in your area of study? If someone's sitting out there saying, I don't know who to ask, someone hasn't done this before, what would your suggestion be?
So I think it's really helpful whether you're a PT student still or you're in your PhD. A lot of times you can do like a lab rotation with different labs that in your institution. So kind of just researching online, digging through your school's website to see what is out there and what different researchers are doing can be helpful. If you're still looking at institutions and not sure where you're going to go yet, that's an even better time to do that. And reach out to researchers that you're interested in working with, send them an email, see if they're willing to meet with you. So that's what I did, and that's how I found my mentor at Ohio State.
Yeah, reach out to people. When you put PTs in a room with each other, they talk about PT stuff. When you put researchers in a room with each other, they talk about research stuff. Don't be hesitant, I think is what you're saying, on reaching out to people that you're interested in. It can only lead to something good. I can't envision a world in which a researcher would say no to that. Like, hey, I'm very interested in the thing that you're very interested in. I would like to have a quick conversation. I can't picture a researcher saying no to that. Chris, what would you add?
Yes, and I really think networking at conferences can be a really good idea too.
Yeah.
One of my mentors for my dissertation, I actually met at CSM, Combined Sections meeting from PT. So I think that's a great opportunity as well. And I really think the PT research world is pretty smart for the most part. So a lot of people do end up knowing other people. So whether it's your advisor or other professors that you know, most of the time they could probably connect you with someone that's interested in what you're interested in.
That's well said. Emma, what would you add to that in terms of where or how to find some of this?
Yeah, if you can, and especially if you're working with a distinct population, like I was working with individuals with limb loss, if you can seek out where there might be support groups or other interdisciplinary practices like prosthetics and practices and things like that you can kind of get integrated in and maybe do some observation or do a presentation to those community groups and start to understand a little bit more about what prevalent issues are the most common from their perspective, that can be really helpful for informing that research, even if you're not directly treating those individuals on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, it sounds like become more informed, be interested. People will recognize your interest, as they had to have that, right? That's why they're in those positions. So display your interest. Last question for the panel. We talked about how to take constructive criticism, but maybe highlighting a real tangible mistake. Was there a mistake or a lesson learned throughout the application process that might be beneficial to hear? I mean, I'm sure there are some people in the audience now seeing you and saying, well, I want to be there. This is meant to, well, obviously humanize you a little bit and show that, hey, these things do happen and you can still achieve success. So Chris, we'll come to you. Is there a mistake or a lesson learned that comes to mind when I ask that question?
Yes, really for me, I think a lot of it for me is talking about the mentorship and training itself. And that was one part I didn't really elaborate on much the first time. So really talking about how the mentorship team will actually help me out through the process, and how the mentorship team will even communicate with each other as well. Mm-hmm. So that this is a whole team that's really working on this project. So I'm not alone in this process, and I am getting that support, and I need to really show that I am supported through this process.
All right, Emma, what was your mistake? What was your lesson that you'd want to impart?
Just like everything else, when you're doing any kind of doctoral training, don't get too zoomed in on one idea. I had to back myself way out of an initial research plan I wrote for my PODS application and start a little fresh, because there were a couple holes that I found in it or that my mentors found in it. And so just making sure you're not from the start locked in so tight that you can't really kind of see outside of those areas of what you're writing, making sure that you're allowing that feedback to get integrated from others. And then you're not going to be rewriting parts of your research plan with a week left.
Emma, are you telling me this didn't go completely perfect from start?
No, surprisingly not. I know, I wish.
Well, it sounds like you went back to square one, where some people, I can see where you might get frustrated with square one, but you went back to square one armed with more information than you had before.
Absolutely. And, your mentors are there for a reason. So if you listen to them, you'll probably end up with a great product.
Who knew? It's not perfect from beginning to end every single time.
Definitely not.
Julia, let's talk about one mistake, one lesson, as you heard the other panelists talk about theirs.
I would just say start early. My mistake that I've probably made multiple times now is not starting early enough. So it's helpful, not only to give you time, like Emma said, if you kind of need to rewrite some things, but it also allows the opportunity to have others read through your drafts and give you feedback, which is going to be really helpful in putting together a stronger proposal, as well as giving extra time for your reviewers and everyone else who needs to contribute to your application. So
love that. All right, great information. Chris, Emma, Julia, appreciate your time. Congratulations again. And thanks for shedding a little light and put some depth and color behind some of these projects and these grants. We appreciate it. Let's bring in another one of my colleagues at the Foundation for Physical Therapy Research, Liz Jackson, the Senior Specialist Research at Grants at the Foundation for Physical Therapy Research. Liz, welcome to the live stream here.
Hi, Jimmy.
All right, and what are you here to share with everybody? You're going to share some insight.
Yeah, I've got a few slides to share with you about our mechanisms and our opportunities that are available for folks. We identify the best qualified applicants for grants and scholarships and fellowships. And these innovative researchers advance care across medical disciplines and patient populations. The mechanisms we have available are Promotion of Doctoral Scholarships. We also call them the PODS 1 and 2. We have a combined PODS 2 New Investigator Fellowship Training Initiative, which is modeled after the K99 R00 awards, and then a New Investigator Fellowship Training Initiative and research grants. Applicants who are eligible are pre-candidacy PhD students, PhD candidates, postdoctoral fellows, emerging and experienced investigators. The opportunities in detail, I'll tell you a little bit about the PODS 1 is $7,500 per year. It can be awarded twice to the same applicant in different years, and that's generally pre-candidacy, that is pre-candidacy PhD students. The PODS 2 is a $15,000 scholarship. It can be awarded twice to the same applicant in different years, and those are PhD candidates. And then the combined PODS 2 NIFTY initiative is $115,000 for 3 years. It can be awarded one time to an applicant, and that is PhD candidates moving into postdoctoral research fellowships. PODs are available for any area of research, and we have dedicated funding that supports focused areas as shown. The APTA Academy of Education Fund has funding available in odd-numbered years. And then you see the APTA Academy of Neurological Physical Therapy funds a PODS 1 and a PODS 2. The APTA Academy of Pediatric Physical Therapy has a fund that supports PODS. The APTA Academy of Cardiovascular and Pulmonary Physical Therapy supports PODS. The APTA Academy of Pelvic Health Physical Therapy also has a fund. And then we have additional funds for which we name awards from the Mildred Wood, Viva J. Erickson, Bella May, and Phoebe Romberger, and the APTA General Funds that support physical therapy research in all areas. Be sure to visit our website for more detailed information on our PODS 1s and 2s, the opportunities, information on applying with instructions, etc. The deadline for applications is early January for the PODs. And then we have some research grants available on the next slide. The foundation provides around $500,000 in research grants annually. And hopefully that slide will pop up here. It lists the grants we anticipate offering next year. The Magistro Family Foundation Research Grant, the Paris-Patla Physical Therapy Research Grant, and the Paris-Patla Manual Therapy Research Grants. Those are all $100,000 awards, which require a letter of intent that is due in early June, or with the full grant deadline for applications in early August. All of these items will be submitted at proposalcentral.com. We utilize them to collect all our applications. Guidelines and instructions are also available there. You go there and create a logon. You'll see ORCID there on the screen. That will be required if you're funded. And if you're heading down a research track, we suggest creating an ORCID login. All instructions and guidelines are available there when the grants become available. And if you put physical therapy into the search box, all of our opportunities will be available to you. And then you just click Apply Now to begin your application. And if you create a title and save it, you're not stuck to that title. You can go back and edit it. The full application will open up for you. We do not see your submission until you validate it and submit it to us. FPTR is the only national nonprofit solely dedicated to physical therapy research. We use a rigorous peer review model to find the most promising applicants across fields of interest. We've awarded over $20.7 million in grants and fellowships to promising PT researchers. We've supported 688 researchers who began their careers with FPTR funding. And over $894 million in follow-on funding has been secured by formally funded FPTR researchers. Be sure to visit our website as we update upcoming events that can help you with your grantsmanship. The one upcoming event is January 9th through 13th. It's sponsored by ACAPT, and it's a training and grantsmanship for rehabilitation research. And of course, be sure to stop by and see us at the APTA Combined Sections meeting, which is taking place in San Diego, California, February 23rd through 25th. Back to you, Jimmy.
Back to you, Jimmy. Well done. Liz, thanks so much for the insight. Want to say thanks again to our panelists for putting a little depth behind the process. And I guess there's probably also another person or group of people behind this process as well, which is our reviewers and the humans who actually review these submissions. So there are people behind there. Liz, you mentioned that website. I'll mention it one more time as we wrap up. The website for the foundation is foundation4, that number 4, pt.org. On behalf of the Foundation for Physical Therapy Research, thanks so much for tuning in.